These videos are brought to you by His Vessel Academy. Check us out at hisvesselacademy.com. Welcome back to my channel. Last time we met, we did talk about polynomials and their fractions, but we didn't actually deal with negative exponents. We only dealt with positive ones, which is fine, but I want to deal with negative ones this time. I still want to use a lot of the same strategies that I used before. In other words, I still want to come in here and I want to draw down it. In other words, I want to separate this one. Now there is no number, so we're going to do that. And I'm going to separate it with the x's and the y and the z. And if I have a little room, as I said before, I do like to actually write it out. And so I'm going to write it out on a grid. And the nice part is obviously 3 divided by 1 is still 3. So we don't have to deal with the coefficient in this case, but we have a couple of negatives in here. The first one, again, we still want to start with the same strategy from last time. I talked about how if it is the largest, you're looking for which one's bigger, 2 or 3. Hopefully you said 3. We're going to bring this down here and we're just going to subtract 2. And then I'm going to cross it off. Okay, I want to make sure I always cross it off once I move it, because if not, I will be confused and I might put it in there twice. So I'm going to look between -1 and -3, and -1 is actually larger than -3. Remember, as your negative numbers, as the larger it is, the number it is, a negative number, the smaller it is. So in other words, for thinking about debt, you don't want to be in debt for $1 or for $100. So you think about it that way. That may help you remember. And so we're going to do minus -3. Okay? And I want to make sure you realize that I am going to actually put minus. I'm going to keep that in there. And in our classroom, we actually call this guy right here, I want to kind of show him a little bit up in this. It looks kind of like this. We call him Mr. Confusion, and we like to knock him out. So we actually just do that. So that way he's gone. So he becomes positive. So remember, 2 negatives make a positive. That may help as well. But that way you can kind of see how that works and why every once in a while I'll say something like Mr. Confusion needs to be knocked out. So my last one here, and I did write over the top of it, so it's going to be a little less neat, but I do have z to the first power, and then I have z to the -2. So again, we're going to bring that -2 up, and it's going to be minus -2. You will notice I did put the 1 there because I do want to make sure I subtract, or in this case add, so because there's Mr. Confusion, we're going to knock him out really fast. I want to make sure it's added to the number. So if I don't put it there, I might lose it when I'm moving them up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide because it's a little bit neater. You can kind of see it a little bit better than what I just had. You can kind of see that, okay, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and knock Mr. Confusion out on both of these, so that way I don't have to deal with it. So I still end up with this 3 up here, and I have a -1 plus 3, which just gives me 2, so y squared. And then this z plus 2, or 1 plus 2 is 3, so I'll end up with a z to the cubed. And 3 minus 2 gives me 1. The reason I want to always pick the smallest exponent to move it either up or down in the numerator denominator is because then I don't have to deal with negatives, and then I don't have to move them a second time. So this makes it a little bit easier for me. So I went ahead and I wrote it out so you can kind of see it. Here is the actual answer. So hopefully that helps and you can kind of see how that works and start doing that in your homework so you get better answers. So let's take a look at another one. We're going to look at this one. This is the last one we're going to do. I want to see how well you do, so go ahead and see, can you figure out which ones to move up and down? Which ones should I move? What's going on here? Do I end up with the number in the numerator denominator? Okay, so in other words, if I look at 5 divided by 25, make sure you realize that that becomes 1 and that becomes 5. So it actually ends up being 1/5. So now I'm going to say which one of these is bigger, 6 or -2. Hopefully you said -2. I am going to subtract the -2, okay? I want to make sure you're realizing you are subtracting the -2. I do have Mr. Confusion here. I'm going to knock him out real quick. And then I have this -3 and this +2. 2 is bigger, so I'm going to go minus -3. Okay, so we're going to knock him out. And there's Mr. Confusion again, so we're going to knock him out. I'm sure that made sense. And I'm going to look at 2 and -2. I'm going to go ahead and do minus -2. There's Mr. Confusion. We want to knock him out. So now I know where everything goes. I have an x in my numerator. I have a 5, a y, and a z in my denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Again, I'm going to walk through this real quick and show you that since I have 2 negatives, I'm going to end up with a positive. So we're going to go ahead and knock them out. And hopefully you have that. So now it's kind of cool how it ends up being 6 plus 2, which is 8. 2 plus 3, which is 5. And 2 plus 2, which is 4. And there we go, is my final answer. Hopefully that's what you had when you tried it, or try it a couple of times to kind of get used to doing it. Hopefully you enjoyed this and give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. At His Vessel Academy, we offer live interactive classes as well as some self-paced courses. Visit hisvesselacademy.com for more information and register today.